month we have been focusing on living a spiritual life in such a way that it lifts us into a greater meaning, a greater way of just showing up in life that's filled with magic and miracles. Two of my favorite words, magic and miracles. I'm so thrilled to be with you this day, to be standing here this day. After 10 days ago getting my back cut, I am really believing in those two words, magic and miracles, because they really do work when you work them and when you truly deepen into what a miracle really is. And a miracle really is God's work, which is natural. It's natural, but to us it feels like a miracle sometimes. So anyway, specifically this morning we are being mindful of to practice prayer. That was 2 weeks ago. We talked about that. Everything's on YouTube if you want to go back and look at it under my name. Everything's on YouTube. We talked about prayer. We prayed. It was wonderful. I know the Reverend Rita gave a fabulous talk last week with Norman joining in at the end and everyone singing along. So that must have been a really fun time too. I hate missing fun times. Yeah. Today is to pursue play. Pursue play. And then next week, to be mindful and to possess a greater idea of the presence. A grateful presence. And then to quicken our pure potential. And finally, in this series of talks, will be to power up our positive thinking. So I want to lay some groundwork, which is deeply profound and powerful. The spiritual practice, as I already said, the spiritual practice of pursuing play. Why would I say that pursuing play is vital to a life lived in peace and power? Why would I say it could be looked at as a spiritual practice? That might seem a bit extreme to many. Why would I suggest such a thing? Eh? You don't know me well. We like to play, yeah? Look at the name of our center.
Sure.
So this entire talk today goes in alignment with the name. Let's think about that for a moment, not about the center, but about play as a spiritual practice. When we are at play, aren't we having fun? In a mindful but meaningful way, because we are present, fully present to playing. When we're playing, we're fully present there. What is going on within us, inside of us? Are we happy? Are we smiling? Are we laughing? Are we joyous? Are we exhilarated? Are we not worrying about tomorrow or the future? Are we imaginative? Just like children? Just like children. You see children at play. They're just present in that moment and they are laughing. They are having a good time. They are creative. They're using that gift of imagination that I know a lot of us had kind of drilled out of us when we were younger. Imagination is one of the greatest gifts we could have ever received. It is a divine gift. Do you see the relationship between any of those qualities and your divine nature then? Those are our natural inherent qualities. We were born with all of those qualities of imagination, excitement, and joy. That's what we were born with. In the Bhagavad Gita, we are told that the full nature of God is joy, and that we are enjoyers. Now look at how the universe and the creative process of the universe works. Creative process is how we define the law. So when you hear me say law, if you're not familiar, really familiar with these teachings, it is the law of divinity, the creative law. There is a natural law of creation. Some call it the law of attraction. That's just one of the many names. And we create our lives depending on what messages we consistently give to the law. What are we thinking? What are we feeling? What are we saying? What are our beliefs and attitudes and values? All of that goes into the law. Whether it's conscious or subconscious, the law doesn't know the difference. What happens when we plant in the law messages of happiness, joy, imagination, energy, exhilaration, and freedom? What do you think happens then? I say that we get back a life of peace and power, a life of joy. So do you see why the pursuit of play is something we should be mindful of as a spiritual practice? You can see that. We often, too often, we think that we have to get all the work done, finish the work, and get through all the hard times, and do all the things that need to be done. And then at some time later on, maybe, we'll have some time for play and fun and laughter, spontaneity and joy, maybe. But think about this. Think about this. Have you ever been driving your car when a light flashes up? Don't we love that? Yeah. When the light flashes up and it's giving you a warning signal that low oil pressure. I like to liken our entire bodies to cars because they really feel like they are a car. I'm going to take this one in for another alignment soon. Get it aligned, get it strong and moving, yeah? You don't have to answer that out loud, but have you ever made the decision not to check that engine light? Oh, I'm going to get to my next destination. It's only a few more miles. I can make it. I can make it. And we do that a lot, yeah? But have you ever pushed it like that only to roll into a garage and be told that because the oil ran dry and the parts had worked against one another without any oil, the engine burned itself out? And that will now need a complete overhaul. All too often, we have car people in the room, I know. It's like when I talk about football, we want to laugh, that's a joke. Okay, all too often, we do the same thing to ourselves that some have done to their cars, do we not? We see the warning signal. We think about it, oh, we can go just a little bit more. We can push ourselves just a little further. And sometimes we're going to make it. And sometimes we see that we are making it, but we're not really. We're not really. And sometimes we crash and burn. That can happen. And we are in then a need of a complete overhaul, just like that car. The Bible repeatedly emphasizes the importance of joy and maintaining a sense of lightheartedness and humor. In fact, in the book itself, in the book of Ecclesiastes, we are reminded that there is a time to laugh and a time to cry. We have all of these times in our lives. Let's not forget the laughter part of it. We have both. And it's fascinating to realize that in the Bible, there are 90 references to joy. Somebody counted them. I did not count all the 90 references to joy in the Bible. I saw it on Google. And here's just a few. This is the day the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad. Let the rivers clap their hands and the hills be joyful together. All who seek for God shall live in joy. Everlasting joy will be upon their heads, and they shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. And from the teachings of Jesus, we read, these things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full. Commenting on Jesus' teachings on joy, New Thought and wonderful author Eric Butterworth wrote this: "When Jesus tells us to rejoice and be of good cheer, he was pointing to a dynamic truth. The potential for rejoicing is already within us. Joy is a spiritual capacity, the unborn possibility of abundant living, and it is our privilege and responsibility to release it. It is our privilege and responsibility to release it. Do you have a playful attitude about life? About yourself? It is said that angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. Ernest Holmes said in his work that he took his work seriously, but he never took himself seriously. One person who took himself lightly was Yogi Berra. Old-time name there, Yogi Berra. He's got a great book. It's a funny book. Autobiographical book, and it's called The Yogi Book. Subtitle, "I really didn't say everything I said." So I'm going to give you got to think about some of these. These are really, they're pretty good actually. But here we go. Here's some of his pearls of wisdom. "I was giving Joe directions from New York to our house in Montclair once when I said, 'When you come to the fork in the road, take it.' Another one. I was receiving the key to New York City on a miserably hot and humid day. Mayor Lindsay's wife, Mary, commented on how cool I looked. And I replied, 'You don't look so hot yourself.' Always go to other people's funerals or else they won't come to yours." Think about that. Had to think about that one. Oh, you've got to be careful if you don't know where you're going, because you might not get there. I don't know where we are going, but we are sure making great time. Some of his pearls of wisdom. I mean, it's something to make you laugh. It's something to get a little lightening up. We need to lighten up. Do we not need to lighten up in this day and age? I would say yes. No. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We are seeing more and more evidence of the relationship between joy and physical healing. But it isn't a new concept. In fact, King Solomon gave us one of the earliest recorded accounts regarding the healing power of joy and laughter when he wrote in Proverbs 17:22, "A merry heart makes the body healthy, but a broken spirit dries up the bones." In the 1300s, Surgeon Henry de Montville reportedly told jokes to his patients in the recovery room. I don't know if I would have laughed at that point, but you know, you're getting the idea here. In the 1600s, educator Richard Mulcahy recommended laughter for those suffering from head colds. Throughout the centuries, court jesters have been hired to relieve royalty's stress and to liven up everything, to liven up the parties. You always see the court jesters. I always like them. Perhaps the most insightful recording of the benefits of laughter and healing came from Dr. Norman Cousins in his book, The Anatomy of an Illness as Perceived by the Patient. In 1964, Dr. Cousins was diagnosed with a crippling and extremely painful inflammation of his body. With his physician's assistance, he checked out of the hospital and into a hotel to utilize as many natural resources as possible to treat this condition. His experience became a controlled study in pain management and overall healing. Dr. Cousins decided to experiment with laughter to create a positive factor in altering his body's chemistry to be in a healing mode. Dr. Cousins systematically watched Candid Camera. Can't laugh at that, that is so corny, but it's funny. Candid Camera episodes and Marx Brothers movies. This is what he was doing while he was recuperating, part of what he was doing in that hotel room. And read books that consisted of really funny stories in them. And later he wrote this: I made the joyous discovery that 10 minutes of a genuine belly laugh had an anesthetic feeling that gave me 2 hours of pain-free sleep. Just 10 minutes of laughter. He recovered from his condition and spent the next 20 years teaching about the merits of laughter in physical healing. Something to remember. You may recall in the movie The Secret, the woman who shared her story of healing from breast cancer and how she and her husband watched nothing but silly movies. That's all they did. You might recall that. Play, humor, laughter, all of this heals. They heal the body, they heal the spirit, they heal the mind, our emotions, they heal our thinking, they heal everything. They do. We don't laugh enough, to be simple about it. If we wish to come to the Spirit for the healing of our wounds, let us come with spontaneous joy, for the Spirit is joy. That was from Ernest Holmes. The Spirit is joy. So how wonderful the name, as I said before, of our spiritual center is Joyful Gathering. We joyously, or not, we come anyway, and we have a good time. It's a place where we can at least relax and enjoy ourselves and hear some positive talk. I'm well aware that life fills us, well aware, with many situations that are difficult. It always will. It's life. It's life. Living the human experience, we will have difficult as well as joyous celebrations and experiences. It will happen. It's how we respond to it. How do we respond to it? We can laugh or we can cry. We lay down our burdens that weigh upon us, for even a moment. And we already talked about the role that this plays in the creative process, which is always responding to our every thought or every word or every action, whether we are aware of it or not. It could be said that Jesus had this in mind when he said, "Except ye become as little children, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven." And we all know where heaven exists. Right? It's not some big far-off place. I hope we don't think that. It's right here, right now, heaven or hell. We get to choose. Oh, and don't forget, we have limbo. Do we still have limbo? Or is that gone? We have, well, we can have limbo. We have limbo, the in-between. Because sometimes we're not ecstatically joyful, and sometimes we're not, like, miserably depressed. We're in between, which is good. There's a whole spectrum of emotions. We need to return and be as these little children, to be like a little child. And I'm not saying that pain and suffering do not exist, but have you ever noticed that most children deal with how they deal with hurt? They're there, they get hurt, and they cry and they carry on, and then you look away 5 minutes later and they're up playing again. They're bounced right back again into that natural state of joy. That's how we are inherently made. It's what we're made out of. It is natural to the spirit. It is so natural to the spirit, that joy, until it becomes unlearned. Somewhere along the line, we unlearned it. And we can always relearn what we unlearned. Ernest Holmes wrote in his book, Science of Mind, how we long for a return of that simple trust in life which children have. In their minds, there are no doubts. They have not yet been told that they are sinners, destitute of divine guidance and spiritual life. The life of a child is lived in natural goodness. God is natural goodness. The prison walls of false experience soon build themselves into barriers shutting out the light, and the child grows into a man or a woman, often losing their sense of that inner guide. We must return the way we came as little children who know that life is good and to be trusted. And I love that last line. We must return the way we came as little children who know that life is good and is to be trusted. You can trust it. Trust is big. There is a joy potential within every person. There is a light within each and every person all the time. There is unborn possibilities of happiness within each and every one of us. I encourage you to take the time. Put it on your calendar if you have to play, to enjoy life, to enjoy nature and your friends. Pick up the phone and call someone that you really like. Go out for a beautiful walk or sit by the lake, whatever it is. Remember, this is the privilege and responsibility that we are giving birth to. And when we enlighten up others. This is the way it works. I encourage all of us to take that time to make that intention of incorporating play, fun, joy into our lives every single day. And so it is.
And so it is.